Hello, Nathaniel Adams here at the Natty Adams shop in the French Quarter. In the last video I talked a little bit about how the tariffs that have just been enacted are probably going to affect my small business. In this video I'm kind of going to think aloud about what I might possibly do about it. Obviously I can't do anything about the tariffs directly. I have no power there. So I have to think about how to change my business to deal with this. I made it through the pandemic by the skin of my teeth, through some creative thinking. I did not get any PPP loans during the Trump administration. It turned out that most of that money went to churches and corporations. As soon as the Biden administration came in, one of the first things they did was moved all businesses with 25 or fewer employees to the front of the queue for small business loans. I got some money from them that basically saved my business from bankruptcy. So that's one of about 1 billion reasons that I didn't vote for Donald Trump, because as flawed as the Democrats may be, they actually did something to help small businesses. And Trump and Elon Musk are now cutting staff at the Small Business Association, which is the agency that distributed those loans and that is in charge of helping out small businesses like mine. So, I can't affect the tariffs. I don't have any expectation that the government is going to help out small businesses like mine. So the first thing I could do is raise prices, which I'd obviously really rather not do. Like I said in the last video, I wanted to sell my clothes to people who aren't ultra wealthy. I wanted working people to come in here. It's not cheap, it's a bit of a splurge, but if they had a good reason, if they were getting married or graduating, they might treat themselves to a really amazing experience, and I wanted to give that to them. I don't want to be like most other custom suit manufacturers who only sell to the ultra rich. And also, if I do that, I'll have to be competing with multinational luxury brands like Brioni, Brunello Cucinelli, all the big designers, Armani, Yves Saint Laurent, all these companies. I'll be competing with them for customers. I don't have the infrastructure or the capital to compete with them. So that's not really feasible. If I do have to raise my prices, which I probably will in some way, it's going to affect my bottom line, because the people that I've been selling suits to for the past 8 years have been regular working people and not the ultra rich. Other things I can do. I could switch manufacturers. Last year, it might have made sense for me to move my manufacturing to India or Vietnam, which are other places that have apparel factories and good garment making business. The new tariffs on those countries are about as high as they are on China, so there's no reason for me to move to those countries either. Aside from that, moving factories at all for me basically would involve starting from scratch. I've used this factory for 15 years. I have a strong relationship with them. I use their software in my pattern making. I would have to basically remeasure every single client I've ever had when they want a new suit. It would be years and years of hard work, completely scrapped, in order to start over again. And that's really not feasible. It's not something I want to have to do. It would cost a lot of money to set this up, money that I don't have because I've spent so much of my money getting this place open, getting it up and running. Now, could I manufacture in America? That's ostensibly the goal of these tariffs, is to bring manufacturing back to America. That's what Trump says, which shows how little he knows about manufacturing. He's a real estate tycoon, he's a branding expert, he's a reality show star. He's never manufactured anything in his life except lies. So is this going to reshore American manufacturing? Maybe in some areas. This is why targeted tariffs might make sense for things like steel, for microchips, for auto jobs. It doesn't make sense at all with apparel manufacturing. First of all, there are only a few factories in America that make suits. and they're often owned by big brands, and they don't really make a lot of money working with small brands like mine. They would charge me a lot because I'm not producing in bulk. I would be near the bottom of their client list. And more than that, they wouldn't be any cheaper than continuing to manufacture in China with the tariffs. So the tariffs on China aren't going to make me want to manufacture in America because it would cost me just as much, and I don't think the quality would be better, and I have to start my entire manufacturing model from scratch and develop new relationships and all this kind of stuff. It would be a huge lift, and it would be almost prohibitive. Now, you might think that the American manufacturing, buying American, will be cheaper now. Nope, the opposite is true. Because these companies will no longer have to compete to the same extent with foreign companies, they have no reason to lower their prices. In fact, they have every reason to raise their prices because they can charge as much as they want if they're the only game in town. So this is really bad for small businesses like mine who are trying to manufacture apparel. It's why manufacturing in America doesn't make sense, specifically for clothing. Another part of this idea that we're going to revitalize American manufacturing and train people to work in manufacturing again is a really just unrealistic idea, especially for something like apparel. It might make sense for certain kinds of manufacturing, housing materials, automobiles, microchips. It's not that hard to train people to work on the assembly lines that make that. In order to make suits, in order to make most clothing, you need people who know how to use industrial sewing machines. This is not entirely unskilled labor. So I don't know how many young American people you know who are really dying to work in a garment factory with industrial sewing machines, but there aren't that many out there that are trained to do that. And the idea that suddenly, I don't know, you're going to go into the high schools and tell them all, like, okay, who here wants to work in a garment factory? Who wants that to be their job? Maybe they'll do it, maybe some people do it. Their wages will be much higher than what wages in other countries are, and the cost of producing in America will go up. The other thing is that most of the people who do work in garment manufacturing in the United States are immigrants. So if we're also getting rid of all the immigrants, who's gonna fill their shoes? Same problem in agriculture. So this is all incredibly stupid. Sorry, I'm getting a bit angry here, but this is just a no-win situation for small businesses like mine. So what can I do other than those things? I can repivot a bit. It's partly what I did during the pandemic. I started selling face masks because people needed them. That helped me kind of scratch by. Again, me repivoting is still going to be smaller profit margins, and I will basically be back in survival mode rather than any kind of growth that I had hoped to achieve in this coming year. So I can sell cheaper domestic-made products like t-shirts. Wanted to do some of that anyway, but the backbone of my business has always been custom suiting, and I was hoping ready-to-wear suiting would complement that. Becoming another t-shirt shop in the French Quarter is not my ideal. And those have a much smaller margin, so I'd have to sell a much larger quantity of them. I can sell more local designers in my shop, which is something I was planning on doing anyway, and I'm excited for that, but it also means I've got a really small shop. I will need to invest in different kind of displays, so I can sell things like small leather goods and local fragrance makers. I need to re-merchandise things in order to accommodate that kind of stuff. I'll also need to be open for longer hours, which means that I'll have to spend more time in the shop personally unless I hire someone else to work here, which I can't afford to do right now. So I'm gonna have to spend a lot more of my time in the shop, which means a lot less of my time doing other things that could possibly grow my business. One asset I have is a fantastic courtyard right here in the middle of the French Quarter. I can try to rent that out for events, for photo shoots, things like that. That will mean investing in different kinds of permits with the city. It will mean spending a lot more of my time and money on beautifying the courtyard, really spending time cleaning the courtyard. It's a whole other thing that I hadn't really factored in as a main source of income that I might now have to really think about. But it's another thing that's going to be difficult to do, and another heavy lift. So, those are the things I'm thinking about doing, in recent days, given the current state of things. What can you do? What can all of us do about this? Well, I hope that you get angry about it, because all of this is taking away your livelihood. If you have a 401k, it's wrecking that, because the stock market is tanking because no one wants to invest in America. It's going to make it harder to travel. It's going to make it harder to move. It's going to make it harder to invest. It's going to make it harder to find a job. These bastards are taking away our livelihoods so that they can get a bigger tax break. And I just want to say, whether you consider yourself conservative or liberal, all of this culture war bullshit about immigrants and trans people and wokeness is a tool used to distract us, to distract working people, whether they're middle class, working class, to distract them from the fact that a bunch of billionaires are hoarding all the wealth and taking more away from us and giving themselves tax breaks and gutting public services and crushing small businesses. So keep that in mind. Keep the faith, fight the real enemy, and hopefully we'll see some change. And until then, until next time, off I fuck.